Hey there, listeners. Thanks for stopping by to the podcast today. Please, before you're done listening to this episode, leave us a review. If you're on Spotify, you can review now, and you can also review on Apple Podcasts. But if there's any platforms that I'm forgetting about and you can leave us a review, please do so. If you're happening to watch this on YouTube, and if you don't know, you can watch these podcasts on YouTube now, please like and subscribe to the channel and share the episode as well. So thanks for stopping by, everybody, and enjoy.
Knowledge is Power is where you come to hear people's life experiences to learn from. So, without further ado, let's roll the intro.
Stay hungry, stay foolish.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
I have a dream. Will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Hello, and welcome back to the Knowledge is Power podcast. This is your host, Max Willett, and a couple of podcasts ago when I had Dan Sarmiento on, I said we're going to have a few more baseball people on, and that's who I've got on today. So this podcast is going to be pretty much all about baseball. So, and the journey of how this particular person got to where they are. So if you could go ahead and introduce yourself, that would be great.
Definitely. Thank you for having me on. My name is Ben Sears. I'm from East Providence, Rhode Island, and I am currently a professional baseball player in the minor league system for the Kansas City Royals.
Yeah, so essentially what my dream was when I was 15 years old, to play baseball, but too bad I was subpar and below average. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be really interesting. We've had on some past minor leaguers and a big leaguer on the podcast. I'm going to call out Chris Inetta. Been trying to get him on a lot, but he keeps, putting me down. So I'm calling him out officially on the podcast today. I'm going to make a clip of this and send it to him. So Chris, you got to come on. But so let's just talk about, your life story. You're only a year older than me. I'm 21. You're 22, right?
Correct, yeah.
So let's just, talk about, your life story. You can go back as far as you want and how you got to this particular point in your life.
I mean, yeah, like I said, I'm from East Providence, Rhode Island.
Yep.
Grew up there, lived there my whole life. Went to East Providence High School, and just, baseball has always been my life. Like, it's always been my number one priority in my life, and I've loved it ever since I started playing when I was 3. I, played a lot of different sports growing up: baseball, basketball, football, soccer, blah, 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 like, et cetera. Like, I was just a big athlete growing up, and sports were always number one. But at the end of the day, like, I knew baseball was my number one priority and just loved it, more than anything else in the world. And, I was always pretty good growing up, I guess you could say. Like, in Rhode Island, like, if you're from the Northeast, like, you don't really understand how great, like, how good people are at baseball until you, like, kind of leave. But for, like, Rhode Island, I thought I was always good. People probably would say that I was good, but you kind of get a wake-up call, like, once you get to college and, play at a collegiate level, and then obviously now at a professional level. It's very humbling sometimes to kind of see what competition is out there. But, I had a very unique journey for baseball, especially, for someone who gets drafted. So let's go back to high school a little bit. Junior year, I was all right, like getting some, D3 looks, some D2 looks. Had a decent year in high school, had a decent summer. And then I committed to Wheaton College, which is a Division III school in Massachusetts, which for the Division III baseball, like it's top 25 program every year in the country, like powerhouse in the Northeast. So it was a very good Division III program. And then, but I never had any Division I looks, no Division I offers, never even talked to any schools anywhere around the country, even in the Northeast, didn't talk to anyone. And then went out my senior year, had probably the best year I've ever had in my career. Won Gatorade Player of the Year, Projo Player of the Year, every award you could probably think of. And still, I was committed, but still didn't have any offers or interest from Division I schools. So decided to go to Wheaton, which I was happy with. Wanted to go there. Felt comfortable in that environment. And then went through the fall, had a decent fall, was throwing all right, hitting all right. I pitch now, but I used to hit and pitch and play the field. But after that fall, end of the fall discussion with the coach, like he just thought it was the best interest for me to just pitch only, which thankfully that kind of changed my career. And with that being said, at the time, I still wanted to hit at that time, but I made a decision to leave Wheaton and go the junior college route. Nothing against the school or the coach or anything, but I just felt I was kind of selling myself a little bit short if I was just going to pitch. Felt like I could pitch at a Division I level. So left after my freshman fall, went to the Community College of Rhode Island, which is the junior college here in Rhode Island. I didn't have a lot of time to make a decision, so that was kind of one of the only schools that I could have gone to like right after the fall, because usually kids will go a full year at their first school, and then their sophomore year they'll go to a junior college. But I felt like if I could leave as soon as possible, it would put me in a better position. So I chose to leave, went to the Community College of Rhode Island, played that spring, had a really good spring, gained some weight, gained some strength and stuff, and my velo jumped a little bit in that spring from the fall. So I started getting interest from Division I schools, mostly Northeast and kind of around here like the URIs, UConn, Northeastern, UMaine, schools like that. And then in the summer, I played travel ball from my team growing up, which was Rhode Island Prospects, through Cody Ortega, who helped me out a lot with the recruitment and recruiting process, that both in high school and in junior college. And then was starting to get more offers. Some Big Ten schools came into picture, some American conference schools, which eventually I chose to commit to University of Houston, which is in the American Athletic Conference, and just felt comfortable, got really good connection with the coaches there, and just everything. I felt very comfortable going to that school. And then went there, had a mediocre first year. Well, back up a little bit. Sophomore year at junior college was COVID, so that year got canceled, which kind of hurt me and helped me a little bit, because I think if we had a full year and there was no COVID, I probably would have gotten drafted out of junior college. But considering there was COVID and the draft got moved back to 5 rounds only instead of the 40 that it was normally at, it kind of hurt me a little bit. But I was very happy to go to Houston. Best times of my life, met some of my best friends today, and just very grateful that that kind of happened and I ended up going there. Now, going forward to Houston, my first year, kind of mediocre. Started on the weekends every time. We weren't a very competitive team, lost a lot of games, but still started on the weekend, had a decent year, but I knew I wasn't going to get drafted. So with this COVID year, it helped me out because I had that extra year. So this past year was technically my junior year on the field, which allowed me to kind of go out there and, got moved to the back end of the bullpen, was a closer this year at Houston, had, a really good year, all conference closer, was top 5 in the nation, and saves and, strikeout to walk ratio, et cetera. Had a really good year, and then fortunate enough to get drafted in the 14th round by the Royals. And, that's where I'm at today.
Very cool. Yeah. Very interesting story. And we're going to dive into a few parts of each step of that story. And the first question I have for you has to do with the coaching. So obviously you've been in a lot of different programs now from your high school career. What do you think is like the biggest difference between, say, the junior college at CCRI from Wheaton and Houston? Like, what's the difference from a coaching standpoint? Like, was there any glaring differences that you saw?
I think the biggest thing is from like a Division III and like junior college, and I would even say most Division II schools, is that the priority on player development isn't necessarily there because they don't have the funds to do so. They don't have the coaching staff to do so. Not saying the coaching is bad, but just at a Division I school, you have more opportunities and can bring in outside coaches and analysts to look at what you're doing. So I think they have a tough time being able to grow the player development. So, but not in a bad way. It's just they don't have the funds, like I said, to kind of go get your Rapsodos, your Trackmans, the Edgertonic video. There's just not that available at a Division III school. Obviously, there's still player development in the sense that you're a high school kid coming into college most likely, and they're helping you grow into the college game, but just from like a technological player development standpoint, I just don't think that's there.
Yeah, interesting. What would you say was so you mentioned like technology wise and, coaching wise. So was there anything that you felt was hurting you at these colleges because you didn't have that, or was it sort of you were on your own and it helped you figure out things that you wouldn't have, if that makes sense?
I think one of the biggest reasons why I've had success is because early on in my career, like you go to a school and like there's no strength coach, there's no academic advisors. So you have to be a man. You have to grow up and be like, all right, if I want to work out, I have to do it on my own. Like no one's forcing you to go to the gym. No one's forcing you to do this and do that. And, my first year at Wheaton, we had like lifting partners and this kid, Paul, was great with me. Like I had never really worked out in high school or anything, like never went to the gym, didn't do anything, was kind of just making it off my raw ability and talent. And then he kind of got me in the door and showed me the first ins and outs of like the gym and working out and stuff. And that was very eye-opening for me because you go in and you're not the biggest and the best and the fastest and the strongest anymore. And because there's guys 3-4 years older than you that have been doing it for 4 years and just know how to do it. So you kind of have to, there's a reality check that you need to, be a man and do things on your own in order to succeed, like on the field and in the classroom and even off the field sometimes as well.
Absolutely. So you feel like being in a lower division, I guess, not as competitive area helped you from where you are now because you learned more about the process.
Definitely,
right?
Because I always say, like, now that I've been through it, like, everyone loves the game. Like, there's no doubt about that. Division III, everyone loves the game. Division II, everyone loves the game. JUCO, Division I, everyone loves the game. But you find out a lot about yourself knowing that you're paying for school at a Division III school to play baseball. Like, there's no strength coach. You have to do it on your own. You still have to wake up at 6 a.m., go to lift. Like you really like it. The game makes you ask yourself, do you love it? Because it's very easy just to say no and quit baseball and just go to school and be a regular student. And that really, I think, helped me love the game even more because, I made a decision to leave Wheaton, and then it's really on my own because in a junior college route, you don't live on campus. Like, you got to drive to the gym, drive to the school, drive to the field every day. And that really helped me grow as a person and a player.
All right, cool. So I want to get into like mechanics wise, and I'm curious to hear like your coaches at Wheaton, CCRI, and then eventually Houston, right? Was there something that you felt like each program focused on from, let's say, a pitching standpoint, because at all three you did pitch. Was there anything that you felt like they were focusing on individually, like from program wise, if that makes any sense?
Like mechanical
wise, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember too much early on, like at Wheaton, just because I was only there for fall, like I said. But a lot of focus they put on was just making sure because I was like scrawny, skinny kid. Like, I would say my mechanics have always been good because I'm pretty athletic in the sense that, played shortstop growing up and stuff. So I don't like move like a robot on the mound. I feel like I can compensate for some maybe deficiencies with my athleticism. So they were kind of just very focused on me putting on weight and just gaining strength which leads to velo. And then junior college was kind of the same thing. They kind of just let me do my own thing, maybe a couple things here and there. And then the biggest thing at Houston, I would say, is from my first year to my second year was my second year, I went from the stretch only, no more windup. I was more towards the third base side of the rubber, and I moved a little bit more towards the first base side because I throw a sinker, slider, and a changeup. So if I'm more towards the third base side, I was having trouble getting into lefties because my ball was tailing over the middle too much. So with that addition of me moving over to first base helped out a lot. I don't think there was very many mechanical changes. Like for my mechanics in general, it was more of just like the environment around me changing and just kind of, those little tweaks here and there.
Yeah. Yeah. Something that you hear a lot of for pitchers is, baseball when you're a kid, like you're not dedicated to a position, right? So you see all these guys in college and the bigs and they're left fielders and their pitchers and their shortstops. But growing up, like, you played every position.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, and to carry that on throughout high school and then even into your first year of college greatly benefits you as an athlete, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Because let's think of like extreme examples, right? When you think of unathletic looking pitchers, you think of Bartolo Colon, right?
Yeah.
But the guy had his years, like, he was nasty. And the reason is because, like, there's more to baseball than just, than looks, than being fat and overweight like he is, unfortunately. But there's pitch selection, and there's more than just athleticism.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like if you dig deep into like what makes baseball players good at what they do, like Bartolo Colon, like you look at him, normal guy, like overweight, like doesn't look athletic at all, but if you dive deep into him, like he's super mobile, like very flexible, like can do all this like with his body and how he wants to move his body, he can. So which has a lot to do with pitching and just in general mechanics. Yeah. And people, like the normal person, like that, but the normal person every day, like who just watches a sport, like isn't gonna be like, oh, like how's this guy a professional pitcher? Like he doesn't look athletic or in shape at all. But
right.
There's things that he does behind the scenes and excels at them behind the scenes that another pitcher who looks jacked can't do.
Yeah.
And they both help each other perform at the highest level. So that's why baseball is one of the greatest sports, because like it doesn't matter if you're 5'5", 6'5", 200 pounds chiseled or 280, overweight, like you could still be great at the sport. And it just,
absolutely,
it's everyone's different.
And people look at that as a negative, right? Mm-hmm. Because they say, oh, baseball players aren't athletic.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I mean, you look at a lineman in football, right? Some of those dudes are massive. Yeah. Are you going to tell me they're unathletic?
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're big guys? Mm-hmm. Like Bartolo Colon, for what he does, he gets the job done.
Exactly.
Right? You're not going to say, I don't know any defensive linemen in the NFL, but you're not going to say that they're fat and out of shape just because they look fat.
Yeah, and people just try to discredit baseball because, you don't have to jump high or necessarily run fast. But if you take LeBron James and have him try to throw a 90-mile-an-hour fastball, it just like isn't going to work. And
no,
that's not a discredit to LeBron because he's obviously one of the greatest athletes ever, but there's so much more to baseball than just raw athleticism.
Yeah.
There's hand-eye coordination, and there's flexibility and mobility that goes into it that other sports don't necessarily need. So it's very interesting.
Well, a lot of things. I mean, people think baseball is slow and it's like a chess match, right? And it is, but it's when you're in the moment and you're playing, and the ball is hit. It goes by so quickly. Like the play, it starts and it ends. Definitely. And there is no thinking. There is only doing. You have to go off of instinct, right? And people think it's slow, but it's more of a meticulous sport. It's not like basketball where it just back and forth and back and forth. Like I'm a baseball guy through and through. Like I can't stand LeBron James and I can't stand basketball. So but I mean that's sort of a drawback of me. I mean I don't really watch other sports. Baseball is the best. But let's continue defend baseball and say it's the greatest sport. Back to my point is like, and leads into my next question, right? Is I think you mentioned like mindset, right? Baseball is a very mentally tough sport.
Definitely.
And I had on a few podcasts ago, Dylan Nadler, who I guess I should probably put you in contact with, and he's a mental coach, right? And he's trained a lot of different athletes in a lot of different sports, and he thinks baseball is the most mentally tough sport. So coming from a psychiatrist and a mental training coach,
definitely,
so I'm curious to hear like what your mindset has been, that's driven you to all this success.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, at Houston, we had a mental coach, Brian Kane, who is probably one of the more popular sports mental coaches, works with a bunch of teams, a bunch of individual athletes across the country. And he really helped change my mindset a little bit because growing up, like, it's tough. Baseball is a game of failure. And if you don't understand that, then you are going to be an unhappy camper for a while. Like knowing that, if you get 3 hits out of 10 at bats, like you're a Hall of Famer, and if you like, it's not you're never going to be perfect, and just understanding that, and I'm still learning that today. Like obviously, you never want to go out there and pitch bad, and you want to be great every single time, perfect every single time, but just having an understanding of knowing that's not going to happen has been one of the biggest things I've been working on, and what Brian Kane, a lot of his tidbits that he gave us has helped out a lot, and just knowing that, like I said, like you're not going to be perfect every single time, and just understanding that and moving forward with that has been one of the biggest mindset changes that I've endured throughout my career. And what he taught us with like some of the stuff that I took from him is just making sure that you're breathing. Like breathing is so important in the game of baseball, because if you throw a pitch and it's a ball, maybe the umpire screwed you, like it should have been a strike. Like there's nothing you can do about that after the moment. Like now you have to move on to the next pitch, and just taking a step off and taking a deep breath before you move forward has unlimited change. Like it's so good for you, and just you would be so surprised with how well that correlates to the next pitch. And just certain stuff like that has definitely helped me out through my career for sure.
It's funny you mentioned the umpires. So in the minor leagues, have you seen the automated umpires yet?
So they only did it in one conference last year, and it was like the West Coast Conference.
Oh, okay.
Or whatever division.
Yeah.
So now I believe going forward it's in every division now.
Okay.
So I haven't experienced it personally, but it'll be interesting for sure. I mean,
so do you know what the exact rules are, like the challenges and things like that?
I think it's you get 3 a game offensively and like defensively as a pitcher.
Yeah.
I don't know if like you win one, you get another one, or if you just get 3 no matter what.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see how it works.
Yeah.
Just because like, it could be a big moment, ball 4 for strike 3 or something, and could definitely change the ending of a game.
Yeah, I remember the biggest miss I remember from when I was just watching a game, not the Angel Hernandez highlights, but the I remember David Ortiz. They were playing the Yankees, Red Sox Yankees. David Ortiz was up to bat. It was like the last inning, bases loaded, top of the 9th, and it's a 3-2 count, and there's a curveball, and it was. The umpire ended up calling it a strike. It had to be 4 inches off the dish, like crazy. Mm-hmm. I just remember that pitch. That's the biggest thing I remember is such a horrible call.
Yeah, and it's tough, man. I mean, those guys have a tough job.
Yeah, they do.
They're expected to, there's probably 150 pitches a night. They're expected to kind of, get every single one right. Mm-hmm. It's tough, but I understand sometimes I get frustrated out on the mound, in a big call, the difference between ball 4 and strike 3 is very significant in every single game. So making sure that they're on top of their game is huge as well. But at the end of the day, they're human. So when they miss some calls, you kind of have to understand. But obviously, from a fan's aspect, you want them to get every single call right.
Yeah, and I before I started coaching, I sort of toyed with the idea of becoming an umpire. Mm-hmm. And COVID hit, and then it just sort of fizzled out. But now coaching, I would never want to be an umpire.
Yeah, they're never right. They're never right.
Especially that's forget about majors. Mm-hmm. They get paid $250,000 plus. So you don't really feel that bad for them.
Yeah.
But from a travel team, or they're getting $70 a game, and they're out in the sweltering heat, and they drove a half an hour, 45 minutes to get there, and then some dad thinks he knows every rule and knows them ins and outs, and the umpire is never right. And I always give the umpires the benefit of the doubt, unless they're just pitch after pitch.
Yeah, I mean if they know the rules, and they're calling a decent game, especially young, travel ball, because if you you said, they got to deal with the kids, the parents especially, and the coaches. So knowing that the zone's going to be bigger for 12-year-olds than it is for 18-year-olds, just having an understanding that they don't want to be there 3 hours every single day, expanding the zone, a ball or 2 balls, for 12-year-old kids is not going to be the end of the world.
Yeah, because if you had a major league zone and for
you're going to be there for 4 hours, kids are just going to walk and walk. And it's rough.
Yeah, it is rough. And something else I tell all my players is that you got to respect the umpires. If there's an issue, let the coaches take care of it. And even we, there was this one time where we had an umpire. It was for a rec team I was coaching, and he just wouldn't stop talking to my catcher. Like that drove me. I don't remember why, but I was already in a bad mood, regardless of baseball. Something happened that day. I don't know, but he just would not stop talking during pitches.
Yeah,
and
I mean, you just got to let them play the game at that point. And
Yeah.
just, umpire, and you're there for an hour and a half, and then that's
Yeah.
it. You don't need to have conversations every time.
Yes. There's a difference between introducing yourselves, saying hi, and then saying, "Oh, the weather's not,"
Yeah,
whatever.
and there's always I don't mind talking to them
Yeah.
in between innings.
I played first
or
base.
warming up,
Yeah.
but once the inning starts, just
Yeah.
let them play, let them umpire, because not only are you distracting catcher, you're distracting yourself too from
Yep.
umpiring.
Absolutely.
There's just more to it. So
Yeah. All right. So let's get back into you a little bit. I know you had mentioned from high school to where you are now, you put weight on, and I do want to delve a little bit more into the mechanics part. What is you pitch? Did you pitch a lot in high school? You did.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I probably. I mean, if you were on the prospects, you probably pitched against me and struck me out, but I don't remember. But who knows? Maybe because we were talking about Maine before the podcast started, and you probably pitched against me.
possibly,
Yeah, in that tournament. But the amount of games you play in, as a travel baseball team, hundreds. Yeah, so many of them. And Coach John Mello, who is great, I'll be talking to him, and he'll be like, "You remember this date at this time and this second," and I'm like, "How do you remember
Not
that?"
really,
And
no,
I'm like, and he's coached a lot more games than I've played in.
Yeah.
He's ancient. Coach John is ancient, so but he's not really. But it's crazy how he remembers.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Those games.
You obviously I obviously remember big games growing up and stuff, but just a random travel ball game, and when I was 16, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I
Yeah.
have no idea.
Yeah. Hundreds of games and, double headers, and it was great. I would do it all over again.
Oh, for sure,
I
yeah.
miss it so much. That's why I wanted to coach.
Yeah.
There's nothing better than being out on a diamond in the middle of the summer. Even
Especially travel ball. It was just fun, with
Yep.
your boys, not
Yep.
serious, just joking around, having a good time.
Well, yeah. Well, when you play for Coach John, that's not how it happens, but
I mean,
we had a
there's
good
always
time.
a serious
but
aspect
yes.
of it, but
Well, you want to play well.
yeah,
Well,
exactly.
you want to play well, and that's what he was all about. And you want to play well. You have to know the moment. You know what I mean? You can't just be all loose and acting like it's all fine. You have to have moments of focus. You have that's I feel the biggest difference between a 12-year-old and an 18-year-old. You know what I mean?
You just need to know when you can separate those things.
Yes.
When you need to know when you need to take it serious, and then
Yeah.
when you can joke around a little bit.
Yeah, and then you need to understand that if you hold on to things, if you strike out and you hold on to it, that's not gonna affect you in a good way.
Definitely.
It's gonna negatively affect your mindset, because then you're gonna think, "Oh, I can't do this." It's just you still gotta remember, hitting is difficult. I mean, pitchers always have the advantage. You know what I mean? And you just got to remember that. So, yeah. So why don't we talk about, let's see here. Let's talk about the bigs, or not the bigs, but the minor leagues, right? So when you got to the minor leagues, right, what do you think was the biggest difference? So we're going to continue on the difference trend here from college to the minor leagues. Did you feel that there was obviously more, what's the word I'm looking for? Avenues and people to help you? That's
For sure.
obvious, right?
Yeah.
But what was the biggest glaring difference between college? I mean, Houston was a great college,
Yeah, I mean, from the game itself, not too much of a difference. Baseball is always going to be baseball, but college you play Tuesday, or at least at the Division I level, you play Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then in the minor leagues you play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's 6 games a week rather than 4.
Yep.
So and it's an everyday thing. Mondays are your off day, but it's not really an off day. You still got to go in, get treatment, do this, do that. That's one of the biggest changes that I've noticed. But from college itself, college is specifically focused on winning baseball games.
Yep.
And the coach's job is determined on if you win or if you lose. So that coach is going to put out his best 9 guys every single game with the expectation of winning the baseball game. And the minor leagues, excuse me, it's more focused on player development, I would say. Obviously, you want to win. You don't want to lose baseball games. You never want to lose. You go into every game thinking you're going to win, wanting to win.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's a kid who's 0 for 15 at the plate, for the past 4 games, you're not going to bench him because you're trying to win. Like, you're going to keep giving him at bats because it's focused on player development. Like, this kid, you're trying to get this kid to the big leagues. Or same with a pitcher. If the pitcher, let up 3 runs last outing or has been throwing balls, like not really, pounding the zone, like you're still going to try to keep throwing him out there as much as you can because he's good and his player development is key number 1 and focus number 1 rather than, oh man, like there's a guy on second, we're up by 1, like we shouldn't pitch this kid because we're trying to win, blah, 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 like in the middle of a May game that, doesn't exactly count. So I think that's the biggest difference is college is determined on winning and then minor leagues is obviously winning, but more focused on player development.
Yeah. Do you think, is it like incredibly glaring with a lot of players? Like you ever meet somebody and they're just like all about themselves and it drives you crazy? Like, is it like,
yes, sometimes there'll be kids who, you can kind of tell they're a little bit cocky and stuff, but I've been fortunate, a lot of guys I've been around have been, super humble. I roomed with our first and second rounders this year, when we went out to play low A in Columbia, South Carolina for the Fireflies. And, talking to them, living with them, you wouldn't know that they're, a first round draft pick in the MLB, like super chill guys, super humble and just, your everyday dude. But you're going to get the occasional kid who you kind of can just tell that, walks with like their chest high and, just a little bit cocky, but no one that I've been around has been like, oh man, I don't want to be around this kid. So I've been very fortunate, and all the guys I've been around, at least recently, have been super humble and just an everyday dude.
Yeah, and something else I want to talk about. So the minor leagues is a very confusing and huge organization.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, because each major league team has 3 minor league teams. Four. So if you could explain that, obviously I've been a baseball fan my whole life and I still don't completely understand it. So explain the system you're in and
it's really confusing.
Yeah.
So the everyday viewer or, if you don't know the ins and outs of baseball, even you said you don't really know, you're still confused by it and you love baseball. So it's not like the NFL or, the NBA where you get drafted and you get drafted by the Celtics and you play for the Celtics next year. Like it's not how it is. Like no matter if you're a first round draft pick or a 20 round draft pick or an undrafted free agent, you go through the minor league systems no matter what. So usually, it depends on the organization and how advanced they are and like how risky they are and determines like where you start. But usually you would start so there's 4 levels. It's low A, high A, double A, triple A, and then the big league team. So usually you'll, get all your physicals done after you get drafted, whatever, maybe go out that year. But then the next year you'll usually start in low A, depending on, how many pitchers they need and whatever position you are, if you're a starter, reliever, closer, and also as how well you do in spring training. So that determines where you'll get placed to start. And then, you could pitch good, blah, 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 and then move up a level and then hopefully move up, keep moving up. But it takes 3-4 years, 2 to 4 years before you could even have a shot at being in the big leagues. Mm-hmm. And also minor leagues is very difficult because you could be pitching lights out, 5 straight appearances, 10 straight appearances, really, really good. But people above you are pitching really good too, and there's no opening for you. So you kind of just get left in that lower system when maybe you deserve to be higher in the higher system, but there's just no room for you or no spot for you. And they no point of bringing you up not to pitch you. So they just keep you down to keep giving you innings and stuff. So there's a lot that goes into it.
Hey there, listeners. Thanks for stopping by to the podcast today. Please, before you're done listening to this episode, leave us a review. If you're on Spotify, you can review now. And you can also review on Apple Podcasts. But if there's any platforms that I'm forgetting about and you can leave us a review, please do so. If you're happening to watch this on YouTube, and if you don't know, you can watch these podcasts on YouTube now, please like and subscribe to the channel and share the episode as well. So thanks for stopping by, everybody, and enjoy the episode.
that people don't understand.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, obviously in Rhode Island we had the Pawtucket Red Sox that left because Rhode Island sucks and they couldn't get a deal done.
And like speaking on them, like a lot of people like will think like I'll say I got drafted and like they'll say, oh, I know there's a minor league system because of the Paw Sox. They're like, oh, do you play for like the equivalent of the Paw Sox? Which I'm like, no, like that's AAA.
That's AAA.
Like I'll be there hopefully in maybe a year or two, but no, like there's more levels below that people have to go through first, and they're like, oh, I didn't know that, and then it's like, yeah, well, like that's kind of how it is, and I understand like no one really, I mean, unless you're a baseball fanatic, like don't really care about the minor leagues and blah blah blah. So a lot of your everyday viewer isn't going to know what the AA team is for the Rockies, like just, unless you live in the area. But there's a lot to it that people don't understand.
What was it about the Rockies? Something really funny came up. Well, do you know what the mascot of the Rockies is?
I have no idea.
Yeah, nobody. I think it's a moose.
I think it's like a Rocky, isn't it?
It's a moose.
Is it?
I think. I don't know. No. That's Seattle. It's Seattle's mascot. I don't know. I think I saw that on Talking Baseball. Really interesting stuff. Let's see. What else to talk about? Is there anybody that you have faced that you've pitched against that has made like the news or anything like that? Like in the minors, that's pretty notable. That's going to be in like
the big leagues, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty new, so I was only there for about a month.
Yeah.
I mean, no one that's like, if it was, it's like all the new draft guys.
Yeah.
So they just started, so you have no idea.
Yeah.
But
that's all right. All right, let's go through an at bat, right? You're on the bump. I want to discuss, all right, let's say, I mean, you're a closer now, right? All right, before we get to that, what's the biggest difference you feel like? Obviously, there's a glaring difference in starting and closing. You only pitch a couple innings compared to many innings.
Yeah.
What has been the biggest difference in maybe your pitch selection and your mechanics from when you were a starter to now a closer?
I think the biggest thing between the difference is your routine.
Yeah.
So starting, you're on a 1 day a week schedule pretty much. So you say you're starting on Friday nights.
Yep.
Everything you do before that and after that is leading up to that Friday night start. So, your lifts are scheduled for that Friday night start. Like say you lift, Wednesday and then lift Saturday morning or something like that. Like your routine as a starter is scheduled every single day for you to start that Friday night. And then after that, like your throwing and everything else is scheduled to get your body ready again to start the next Friday night. So that is how a starter's routine goes. And then coming out of the bullpen, it's completely different because you need to be ready to throw Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Mm-hmm. So making sure that your body's right every single day in order to be able to throw every single day is completely different, especially in college. Excuse me. Like there was weekends where I would throw Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I threw 3 games on the weekend, and making sure that Thursday night I'm getting good sleep and my body's ready to throw Friday, and then after the game Friday I'm up at the field an hour after. It's like 11:30. Just ran. Got some treatment. Did arm care. Broke a sweat, like I said, just making sure that I'm ready again for that Saturday game. And if I do pitch Saturday, hopefully I feel good, this and that. But say I don't pitch, I still got to be ready to pitch on Sunday. So just having a routine every single day rather than just leading up to that one day as a starter was the biggest difference that I saw in my personal self. Because obviously, like I said, I started on the weekends my first year at Houston and then was the back end of the bullpen this past year at Houston. So just having a routine was huge for me. An everyday routine rather than, a routine for pitching once a week.
Is your pitch selection still the same, like the type of pitches you throw?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So go over those pitches again.
So I throw like a sinker, slider, and a changeup.
Okay. And what would you say is like your strikeout pitch? You got 2 strikes on a guy, and
I'd say my changeup.
Your changeup.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. So something that, I mean, not to give myself a pat on the back here, but something I've always said is the changeup is the best pitch in the sport.
I agree.
It's something every pitcher needs, especially if you have a good changeup and middle school, high school, and at the collegiate level, and you can throw it consistently, it's unhittable.
Definitely. I
You
agree.
know, unless you leave it over the plate, up and high, and it's just at that point, it's just a hanging slow fastball.
Yeah.
It's so effective. And every pitcher that I've talked to, I'm like, you need to have a change. They're easy to throw. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah,
you
you
just throw a circle change up, it's easy. You just pull down on it, And I know it's easier said than done, but like something every pitcher needs to know how to throw is a change up.
I definitely agree, yeah. I mean, obviously, like, at my level, like, it's more in depth of, like, how you're attacking hitters, especially, like, I'm a righty, like, how I'm attacking righties compared to lefties, but, like, in the high school level, like, you don't really think about that kind of stuff.
No.
So just making sure, you have, a good fastball, something that can move away from whatever. If you're a righty, move away from a lefty.
Yeah.
I mean, move away from a righty. And having something that can dive off the table like a changeup to a lefty is very important. And like you said, like,
How do you grip your changeup?
I just throw like a normal circle changeup, and you can throw it like a fastball. Throw it exactly like your fastball, and it's very effective if you can throw it.
Do you hold it 2-seam or 4-seam?
4-seam.
4-seam.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
No, sorry, 2-seam.
2-seam.
Yeah.
So with the seams.
Yep.
Yeah. So how do you usually set up hitters for the changeup? Like, what's your ideal at bat? Let's get to an 0-2 count. How do you set it up? Let's say it's a lefty, for example,
I mean,
and then we'll do righty.
Lefties, I tend to I have more trouble getting lefties out than righties just because.
Well, yeah, it's righty. Yeah.
Yeah. So especially if I know like as a reliever, like my game plan is completely different than when I was a starter. So talking from a reliever, like I try to work backwards to lefties. So maybe getting ahead early with a slider, and then kind of working the changeups off that.
Yeah.
And then maybe throwing a fastball glove side, maybe a ball in, kind of getting them off the plate a little bit and try to have them dive out at a changeup across the plate.
Yeah.
So I usually, like I said, maybe start with a slider or a fastball arm side, try to stick it. But with professional hitters, it's very tough because like I said, I throw a sinker. So throwing a sinker arm side to a lefty professional hitter is tough because their barrel goes right into the ball and they'll just send that in like the left center gap or the 5-6 hole. So working backwards has helped me out a lot with that. So starting off with an off speed, like I said, a slider, even a changeup first pitch, trying to land that first strike, and then maybe throwing a fastball inside, getting them off the plate a little bit, and then diving back, back foot with the slider, or going back to the changeup. It kind of, you also read their swings, so every pitch. So like if they don't like say I throw a fastball in and they kind of like it's a strike and they don't react, or they're like, you can kind of tell like from their body language if they like that spot or not. Yeah. Maybe I'll go back to that, or say they swing through it, but it's a good swing. All right, I'm not throwing that again. Like let's try to get them to dive out of the changeup. So reacting to how their body language is and how they swing the bat is very important at my level. But yeah, like I said, kind of just starting them with an off speed and then maybe going hard in and then off speed away again is usually
to a lefty.
To a lefty, correct.
All right, so let's go to a righty now. Like, how would you set up a righty?
So I have a little bit easier. Not saying it's easy, but I have a better time getting righties out because I throw a sinker and like a 2-seam in and get it in on their hands. Yeah, which is tough for them to hit. So I usually start out with like a sinker arm side, try to get that on the black on the inner third of the plate, and then kind of expanding the zone away, maybe with a slider, like a ball off, to see if they chase it, and then if not, maybe go slider first strike again, and then a sinker, like maybe a ball or two in, get them off the plate a little bit, and then probably either a fastball again or a slider. The difference with people don't understand that, or that's not a word for it, like using a changeup right on right or left on left is like not like looked against like from the baseball world, but not a lot of people do it. Yeah. But if you can throw a right on right changeup in the right spot, it is virtually unhittable, and I will die on that.
It
hill.
Looks like a fastball, and then all of a sudden it just drops.
Yes.
Like,
and I use that a lot, like towards the end of the college season, because you end up facing the same guys like over and over again, pretty much, especially in the conference tournaments. So they kind of pick up like what you like to do. Yeah. And I was using my changeup like right on right against, righties, and it was very effective. Like they were swinging right over it, or they were, taking it and then getting blown up by the fastball. So if you can throw a same side changeup, it's virtually unhittable in the right spot.
Yeah. And sinkers are sort of like the new fad in baseball. It's like,
it's weird, man, because I would say, baseball today is a lot of analytical games. So a lot of people are chasing for like the 4 seed ride up in the zone and then a hammer curveball off of it. But I think throwing a sinker slider is very important as well because, guys are out in front of it and just beat the ball into the ground and, get quick outs and stuff like that. So it's tough. That's why baseball is so great because you can just pitch to your strengths and
why hitting is getting
different.
more difficult.
Yeah, definitely.
Because especially guys like Trevor Bauer, right? Who I've said before, and I will continually defend Trevor Bauer. I think he's a great for the game. Like that whole situation was terrible with what happened to him, but like to hear him talk about pitching from a more human standpoint, it's not like the mic's in front of him after a game. This is what happened. Like to hear him more from an analytical standpoint is really great. And I subscribed to MLB TV when he was playing, to just watch him pitch, just because I would look forward to it just because he's got such a great pitching motion. It's simple, right? It's not like Chris Sale, who's tall, lanky, and all over the place. It's a very simple pitching motion, like Kenley Jansen's the same way, like simple, right? Not overcomplicated like some of the Japanese, like you see some of those old school Japanese guys, everybody comes in with like some weird hitch or whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean? I want to hear, like, was there ever a point, like, did you ever feel like you were tipping pitches? Did that ever come across, like, and for people that don't know, tipping pitches is, if you're still listening this far into the podcast and you don't understand baseball, tipping pitches is when you might do, something consistent to tell the batter what kind of pitch you're throwing, essentially. Right? Like it might be just a twitch with your glove or something when you're throwing a fastball, but you don't do it on a curveball. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's sort of what tipping your pitches is.
Not necessarily myself. Yeah. Like, so sometimes, like, if there's a runner at second, they're obviously trying to see in your glove, see what grips you have. And like I have like pretty big hands. So like when I throw my changeup, like you can like what I was told, like you can kind of see like how my hands gripped like as a changeup already. Yeah. Which I'm trying to work on right now and just kind of, hide that a little better. But there was one weekend I forget who we were playing last year, but like I throw a lot of fastballs arm side and off speeds glove side. Like I don't throw many fastballs glove side. Yeah. Just because like I have a lot of run and stuff. So like throwing glove side, like it can leak over the plate. But
is your arm slot more over the top?
It's like 3/4.
3/4.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so my catcher would set up arm side when I was throwing a fastball and then glove side when I was throwing a slider. So their coach was like yelling something from the dugout, like would say something he thought it was going to be a fastball arm side, or a fastball in general, and then would say something else when he thought it was a slider, and I picked up on it, and then we kind of like changed up like how we were set up and stuff. But from a personal standpoint, I don't think I was ever tipping from like my mechanics or flicking my finger or something, or I don't think I was doing any of that. Well, I hope not, but
well, I think in 2020 Blake Snell was doing it when he was on the Rays in the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how such a little thing people can pick up. Like people were saying, who was it this year? It was like lifting their leg higher on a fastball.
Oh my gosh,
I forget who it was.
I can't remember. It'll come to me later, but I know what you're talking about. But like these are the things, like when it comes to baseball, like the games within the games.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So like when I coached, like I saw kids steal signs from our team. Mm-hmm. I don't look down upon it. Like I don't think it's bush league. No, it's part of the game.
And if you're blatantly doing something, then it's more of a you issue.
Why shouldn't the other team take advantage of it? And
it's already hard enough of a game to where, like, without anything, it's hard to win and hit and pitch. So
and I've done
any little advantage.
I've done some. I mean, I guess you could call it bush league stuff as a coach. When a catcher, I'm coaching first. Like I wasn't the head coach of our team. I was the assistant, so I coach first. When the catcher on the other team I can see, and I'm like standing in the first base coach box, and I can clearly see his signs. Like, you don't think I'm going to relay that to my hitter? Yeah. Like, come on. Like, you as a catcher need to, instead of sitting there with your legs wide open, just bring your legs closer together. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's that simple. So, like, those are the things. And then we had a catcher who their signs were being stolen. So we had a runner on second base. We were on defense, obviously. And the runner on second base was relaying to the hitter, helmet taps, things like that. And that's another thing like people don't realize is like you have to be mindful of all these little minute details.
Yeah.
Right? And as a baseball player, like you can't learn about baseball by watching it. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's like that with every sport, but there are so many little things like tipping your pitches, stealing signs and things like that are just like so many different things that people don't think about from just watching baseball.
100%. And now it's crazy how it's like changing. Like now people are using like the wristbands for signs, like from the catcher and the pitcher.
Well, yeah, because
the pitch comm or whatever.
Yeah. Have you used that pitch comm?
Not pitch comm, but
no.
We did like the wristband.
Yeah.
And we did like it's like a wristband again, but it has like, I don't know, like 24 on it, or say 23, which would be like curveball, like down in the zone or something. Like specific numbers would lead to.
So like the catcher would flash the signs, but it'd be a combination.
I have like a thing right here, and the catcher has one too, and it has like a little like digital thing, and it'll say like 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
And 2, 3 would be like what you're looking at, and
it's a screen.
Yeah, and it would be like curveball for 2, and then 3 would be like glove side. So first pitch would be pitch, and then the second pitch would be location, and you and the catcher have it, and then the coach just like inputs it in a little remote thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's definitely neat.
Huh. Yeah, that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go through the process, right, of your current pitch selection, right? Because everybody knows, fastball, changeup, curveball, right? Those pitches. But it's very rare where you see a Clayton Kershaw, fastball, changeup, curveball. Pitchers nowadays, like I said, sinkers are like the new fad in baseball. Mm-hmm. It sort of started like picking up again with like Jake Peavy, I guess, had a sinker going on like in 2011 or something like that, and it sort of caught on. But how did you develop like the 3 main pitches that you have?
Yeah, I think like growing up, you always throw 4-seam. You try to throw a curveball, try to throw a changeup, try to throw a slider, I guess.
Yeah.
But with my arm slot, it's tough to kind of throw a curveball because I'm from the side. So not being able to get on top of a pitch, that's kind of wiped that pitch out of there. So like slider, more convenient for me, get better movement, just have more feel for that pitch. Mm-hmm. So that's how I kind of developed my slider, and just been trying to tweak that as much as I can in the past few years. Sinker, kind of the same thing. Like I try to throw a 4-seam, and it moves like it has like ASR, which is like arm side run. Not as much as my sinker, but when I'm trying to get the best out of every pitch I throw, so just eliminating a 4-seam and just throwing a sinker and having it move like how I want it to, and knowing it's going to move this much rather than this much was how I selected the sinker. And just with my arm slot, it just moved anyway. Mm-hmm. So. And then change-up, kind of everyone throws a change-up, and just, tweaking that and making it, seem very similar to your fastball, and then just drop off the table, like, have it 10 miles an hour less than your fastball. That's kind of how I chose that. And obviously, like we were talking about, it's a very effective pitch.
Yeah. Did you ever play around with different grips, or did you always do circle change?
As of recent, I can only really think of like having that grip because it's comfortable for me, and it works for me, and I'm able to throw it for a strike and throw it in the dirt if I want to, or throw it here, throw it there. So that's one of the biggest things that I would say has led to my success is, I'm able to pound the zone and kind of throw the ball where I want, when I want. And I don't have to worry about not being like eliminating pitches in a 2-2 count or a 3-2 count. Like I can throw, all 3 of my pitches in any count. Yeah. And just, not all the time, but pretty much throw it where I want for the most part. Yeah. That's one of the biggest keys to my success. And, has led me to, not walk as many guys and just get early contact and, have quick innings. So I think all that has, added up and been very beneficial for me.
Yeah. Something else that it's good for a lot of young pitchers to realize is getting balls in play. Like hitters making contact is not a bad thing. Walks are bad. Mm-hmm. It's not only bad for your team because it's base runners, it's bad for you because that means you're throwing more pitches.
Definitely.
Right. So like contact hitters, like it's all about the strikeout, but contact pitchers, that's how you get low pitch games, having 1 pitch at bat, 2 pitch at bats.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? So that's something that I also encourage is like, don't be ashamed if you're putting balls in play.
No, definitely. I mean, that comes with maturity. Like, obviously you want to punch everyone out. Like you don't want to let up hits and you
Yeah.
don't want to let up contact, but knowing that it is so incredibly hard to hit the baseball
Yep.
perfect every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you're going to get balls that sneak through the 5-6 hole or flare in a gap, but more times than not, like letting the ball in play is going to lead to an out rather
Yep.
than a hit.
9 gloves, 1 bat.
And if you
1 ball.
I'd rather let up a single than walk a dude because it's the same thing.
Yep.
Like, at least I know I was pounding the zone, and it could, if he smoked it in the gap and it's a double, then it is what it is. Like,
Yep.
like if I walked a dude before that and he smokes it in the double for a gap, that's a run rather than focusing on pounding the zone and getting ahead early in the count.
Yeah.
And letting your defense work behind you. And that's what I've noticed the most is if you are a ground ball pitcher or just a contact pitcher in general, the guys behind you want to play more for you instead of if you're walking a dude an inning and then, punching a guy out. Like, keeping them involved in the game allows for them to want to be out there and just not saying they're going to fall asleep out there, but just having them on their toes every single time. Like, maybe they're an extra step like closer to a ball that they can get in the hole rather than if you walk 2 guys and then let up a ground ball, that ball gets through. So just making sure that you're pounding the zone and letting balls in play early in counts, like you said, saves your pitch count and keeps the guys involved in the game.
Mm-hmm. Would you say you're more of a contact pitcher?
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's your velo on your sinker?
I'm like 93, 95. Like, I've been
Okay.
up to 97.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I could hit that.
Trying to throw harder. Name of the game is velo nowadays, but
Yeah. So something that you mentioned in the very beginning is adding weight and strength brings up velo.
I agree. Yeah.
Okay. So
Obviously, there's more to it.
Yeah.
But like that in my life, that's what I've noticed. So like, I was probably 83, 86 my senior year of high school. Like, good for around here, but not good enough to compete anywhere else really. And then put on 20 pounds, went from like 170 to 190, and then I was like 87, 89, touching 90 my first year at Houston. First year at CCRI, excuse me. And then put on a little more weight. I was 200 pounds, and now I'm 89, 91. And then put on a little more weight. Now I'm 210, and then I'm 90, 92. So obviously there's more that goes into it, like mechanically and flexibility and mobility-wise. But I think the bigger and stronger you are leads to more velo.
Yeah, because, obviously the prime example of that is Chris Sale, right? Mm-hmm. The guy is literally...
some dudes are freaks,
yeah,
so like
yeah.
that's what people have to understand. Like, Chris Sale, 180 pounds maybe soaking wet.
But the guy's made of glass.
Yeah.
That's the downfall of it.
Yeah. But then there's also like, Miguel Castro, who pitched for the Mets last year, 6'98". Like, he's probably 160 soaking wet. Like, some guys are just very freak athletes and just everything works for them and it's super natural. Like DeGrom. Like, if you look at DeGrom, like, this dude couldn't, he can't lift he can't squat 225.
No.
Like, probably not. Like, but he sits 98 and is one of the best pitchers in the game. Like, obviously he's had his injuries and stuff, which some could argue like being a little skinny has had an impact on that. But injuries are all freaky too. Like, you can't guess an injury or
no.
So like it just depends like on the person. Like, for me personally, I think the bigger and stronger I get, the harder I'm going to throw.
Yeah.
But some guys, like I said, are just freaks and just kind of were born with it. So
yeah. Well, and something else you got to think about, right, is the stress in your body. Obviously, working out gets you in better shape, but also, wears your body down.
Definitely.
Right. So you look at, again, Bartolo Colon, right? He, I guess, worked out, quote unquote, but like he didn't just stress his body out all the time, which is why he was able to play for like 20 years.
Definitely.
Right.
Like saying something off that, like, I think knowing your body is super important and not over pushing like you need to work hard without overworking. Mm-hmm. So like, you can work out 3-4 times a week and be perfectly fine, and then there's some guys who work out twice a week and maybe go harder in those 2 workouts and it equals your 4 workouts, or it's blah blah blah. Like, but then there's also guys who are like, I need to work out every single day.
Yep.
Like, work hard every single day, like bench the house every day, squat the house every day. Like, I'm not saying I disagree with it, but you need to give your body time to recover and stay healthy is the biggest thing that I can say is just the best ability is availability. So knowing that your coach can put you out on the field every single day and not have to worry about, a lagging hamstring or
Yep.
this or that injury because, say, you were overworking or not taking care of your body.
Yep.
Is sometimes the difference between making it or not. And, obviously you need to work hard, but recovery and sleep and diet and nutrition is super important as well. Like even more important, I would say, than, what you do in the weight room or on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And stretching and just taking care of yourself, like something that, think about how many, like personally, I've met a lot of older people that have said, oh, if my shoulder was fine, like, oh, I would have gone places, like I personally know somebody who was drafted by the Blue Jays and his arm just crapped out on him.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. Like, and we're very fortunate today that we have like the medicine and doctors and all this knowledge about our body and surgeries and, recovery and needling and cupping and all this that helps us. But also like that doesn't mean you can't just like not forget about sleep and eating 3 meals a day.
Yep.
And, just making sure you're good as a person and, like your body is good as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So another question I have for you, mechanics wise, is what do you feel like is the most important part of a pitching motion? Like what have you focused on the most throughout the years to improve upon?
I think timing. So just making sure like you're on time. And that's what I'm working on now because like I'm tall and long and lanky.
Yeah.
So like it's very easy for me to get out of sync, but I'm athletic, so I can kind of make up for it. But like in 5 years, I'm not going to be as athletic as I am now. So making sure that I can, be on time now and, will help in the long run, I think personally. So just making sure that like when your foot strikes, like your arm's not lagging too far behind and, you're in the right position, like at foot strike, and just being on time is super important, I think, personally.
In sync, yeah. Yeah, so, yeah, exactly. That makes a lot of sense. Something that, I pitched very little. I was a bad pitcher. But when I did try to learn and try to get good at pitching, for me, like, the moment of where you build confidence is the leg lift for me. Like, when I lifted my leg and you feel like you're an elastic, right? You just got to uncoil. You know what I mean? Just
Definitely.
like hitting, like you sort of just coil up and then, explode.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? That was like the point where like I almost knew in my head if the pitch was going to be halfway decent or not. Sure,
Yeah.
I think the fastest I ever threw was 78, but
Yeah, I don't know too much about like the body and how it moves mechanic wise. Like I kind of just, play baseball and kind of go out there and just do what I can.
Absolutely.
But getting older and stuff, like I learn more and try to learn more about like how I'm moving and what works for people, what doesn't.
Right.
So I think there's a lot more understanding now of like what there's like some core principles that like pitchers need.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like not everyone throws different. Everyone is timing different. Everyone is in sync different. So just knowing what works for you and how your body moves and what makes you successful, I think is super important.
All right. So I know this isn't, the best thing to talk about, but have you ever let up a home run and somebody bat flipped against you and you got really pissed and retaliated?
No. Like I if you watch me play, I play with a lot of emotion and a lot of energy out on the field.
Yeah.
And like if I punch you out in a big moment, I'm gonna let you hear about it. And if you hit a homer off me, then you should be able to do what you want.
Yeah.
Like obviously there's, don't walk around the bases, but if you want to bat flip and, talk crap or say something to your dugout or say something to me, like it is what it is. Like it's good for the game, I think. Obviously there's some respect you still need to have for your opponent and yourself and the game. But if you want to bat flip and, hype up your teammates, like I'm all for it. Like usually like I don't even see it anyway. Like I'm hoping the ball doesn't leave, like looking at the ball, trying to going over the fence. But I don't mind that stuff at all. Cause like I said, like I play with a lot of energy and, sometimes I deserve it. I think like I'll say too much and then they kind of get a big hit or something.
Yeah.
But I don't mind it at all.
Yeah. Yeah, when I had Dan Sarmiento on a few episodes ago, we talked about that because obviously he has interviewed Erickson before, and he's huge about emotion in baseball and whatnot. And I'm like, obviously I know a lot of old-fashioned baseball guys. You know what I mean? And I think I'm definitely a fan of emotion in baseball. It adds to the game. It adds entertainment to the game.
Definitely.
But like you said, there needs to be respect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's a time and a place.
There's a time and I was just about to say there's a time and a place to do it. Like if you if you're a hitter and you hit a first inning solo homer, like maybe not bat flip to the moon. Like you can bat flip, but like run around the bases. Like don't say it's a first inning. Like it's
a lot
baseball
of
is
game
a very
it takes one pitch.
Yeah, and like it could come back and bite you. So like maybe if you strike out a guy in the first, like don't scream coming off the mound.
Yeah.
Like there's a time and a place to do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you go over that. Like you do it when you're not supposed to, but you live and you learn, and just I think it's better for the game rather than not doing anything at all.
A couple more things before we wind out. Like shifts. Was there shifting when you were in college?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Has it been banned in college yet?
I don't know. I mean, we did it last year a little bit.
Yeah.
But like in college, you don't really have enough information. I mean, you might think you do, but
yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, like just. But we did it a little bit more of like not like these dramatic shifts where the third baseman's playing shortstop, but more of like say like
based
third baseman's playing down the line, shortstop's playing a little in the 5-6 hole,
Yeah.
and the second baseman maybe shades up the middle a little bit. But I think it's obviously beneficial. Like
well, what about in the minors? Like, do you guys?
There's no more. So like we do like the same rule, or we did no shifts last year. So like 2 on each side. And they have to be in the grass or on the dirt rather, not in the grass. But you can kind of shift them how you want.
Yeah.
And then there's obviously holes open.
Well, isn't it when the pitch is thrown, you have to be on the dirt, right? Because remember, like Dustin Pedroia would, every pitch he would start in the outfield, and then he would just be moving in.
Yeah. That's
to
how
get
it is. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, really interesting. Well, it's been a great conversation.
Definitely.
Always love talking baseball. Thank you very much for coming on. But before we end, I got to ask you this one question. I ask everybody on my podcast this question. If you were to leave one piece of advice to the listener, let's say it's a young kid who wants to play Major League Baseball or wants to get into a higher level of baseball, what would you say to them?
I think just bet on yourself. No one knows you better than yourself, and just understanding that and always trusting in yourself and knowing that it's you against the world and then sometimes you against you as well. But just betting on yourself and never giving up on your dreams and goals. And even if that means like, my dream was to play like in the big leagues, but say that doesn't happen, like still staying in baseball somehow, or, keeping that love for the game somehow in life. I think just betting on yourself and just always keeping the passion and fire for whatever you believe in and love in life is super important.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate you coming on, and I wish you the best of luck in your career. Hopefully we'll see you out, in the big someday. So
hopefully,
yeah, I'll bet on it, and I'm sure you will. So, but like you said, just keep working hard, and you'll get there. So, like I said, thank you very much, and everybody. If you want to get podcasts weeks in advance, so right now sitting down with Ben on February 16th. This podcast won't be posted for a few weeks, but if you want to get it tomorrow, which is the 17th, you have to subscribe on Patreon for $3 a month, or if you're feeling really nice, $10 a month if you really want to support the podcast. Go ahead and subscribe on Patreon. You can find the link on kip-pod.com. Follow on Instagram, and we just got a Facebook account as well.
Perfect.
Yeah, so make sure to follow.
The socials.
Yes, sir. And do you have a social as well?
Yeah, you can just look me up on Instagram, Ben Sears or bsears_12. Twitter, same thing, bsears_12.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for listening, and I will catch you in the next one.